All right, everyone, this is Eric Hayden, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Newport, Morehead City. This is our briefing as of Friday morning. I want to kind of get straight into things. There's a lot to discuss, but the thing that I kind of want to call to your attention, there's a tremendous amount of focus on the snowfall forecast. I know a lot of people may see different amounts. We make tweaks here and there. You look at our website, things are constantly changing slightly. It doesn't matter how much more tweaks we make to those forecasts. We're expecting a major storm in our area this weekend, and that will not change. So I want to make sure people know the severity of the situation. This is the last day for people to get out and make preparations for it. I know a lot of people are already doing that, but there's a tremendous amount of focus sometimes on the snow amount, and it's important, but it's been a long time since we've seen this amount of snow in our area. That's not even taking into account the wind and also the cold weather. So just those three factors alone make it a very dangerous storm. So that's why we're starting off with this. And we also want to show you this winter storm severity index. This is a graphic we showed you earlier in the week. Let me go back to that. This is a graphic that we showed you earlier in the week showing the potential for higher end impacts. This threshold is the potential or what we expect. This is major impacts, everyone shaded in red. That's the majority of everybody watching this video update. Major impacts. Avoid travel if possible. Expect considerable disruptions to daily life, widespread closures. So again, this is a major storm. Notice some slightly less impacts when we're talking about winter weather on the central Outer Banks because you might be a little warmer, but also notice this purple shading along the coastline. We've been mentioning potential blizzard conditions possible along our coastal areas, open facing areas, especially exposed to the water. So this is a major storm. I know a lot of people want to pay attention to the snowfall amounts, rightfully so, but no matter what happens, because of that combination of snow, wind, and cold, this is a very dangerous storm as we head into the weekend. So we're now going to go back to the briefing itself. We, by design, try to really highlight these things on our briefing. We have a method to the madness. We put things at the top of the briefing, we bold them, we highlight them, we move them around for a reason, because we know that people kind of look at things and then move on, and we want to make sure they get that important information first. So still concerned with impacts lasting into a good chunk of next week. Combination of snow, cold, and wind will lead to life-threatening conditions outside. Winter storm warning was issued overnight. That's the upgrade from the winter storm watch. And I don't want to forget our friends on the Outer Banks. We're going to cover the coastal flood aspect at the end of this briefing, and we hope to have some more specifics later today because the focus has been on winter weather, rightfully so, but our friends on the Outer Banks may have some serious issues with coastal flooding in some communities, and we hope to add more specifics for that later today. This has not really changed much. Still expect snow to overspread the area overnight tonight when we're sleeping. So as you head home from school and work today, evening plans should be fine. It's overnight tonight into the day tomorrow. Those snowfall rates really increasing tomorrow night into Sunday. That has not changed. And again, the cold this weekend into early next week. Dangerously cold wind chill values near zero Sunday morning. So extreme impacts due to just not snow, but also the cold and that combination of cold and wind early Sunday morning, late Saturday night. All right, the snow total map. We'll continue to make some adjustments to this. The thing I want to convey, and one of our forecasters, talked to me about this before this webinar. This forecast is made by the National Weather Service in Newport. We have a huge team here, and we work together as a group to make these tweaks and adjustments. There's some trends that we're watching, but one thing we want to point out is this is an overall average of what we expect for the area. The storm, as it really gets going off the coast, we have been concerned with these heavier bands of snow. They are extremely hard to pinpoint where they'll be. In reality, we probably won't know where they're going to be until you see them on radar. So this is an area-wide average of what we expect for snow across the region. We hit it off the top. No matter how much snow we see, if these adjust this way, these adjust that way, the snow, wind, and cold is a dangerous situation this weekend. So please remember that. Snowfall rates could be extreme Saturday night into Sunday morning in some particular spots. There's some things we're watching. How much warmer air moves in along the coast. maybe a rain issue still on the central Outer Banks, but for most of us, this is just an all snow issue. But it potentially could lower amounts on the Crystal Coast. That's something that we're still looking at. But we do think in eastern North Carolina, we are going to have a heavier band of snow. So this is an overall average, 8 to 12 for most of the area, maybe lower toward the coast, especially the central Outer Banks. This is a good, most likely scenario. Just based on this, blowing and drifting snow likely, travel treacherous, and potentially life-threatening. So again, if there's minor tweaks to this, those things don't change, still potentially life-threatening heading outside. The best chance for the banding, we're not sure. Some of the higher resolution models are coming into play now, and it might be a little tighter snowfall forecast. We might have a narrow area of much heavier snow. Is it along Highway 17? Is it over toward Greenville? Is it a little bit farther west? We're probably not going to know until we get a little bit closer. So that's why we show you this worst case scenario map. Pretty much anyone in eastern North Carolina is still in the potential for locally higher amounts. The exception may be Hatteras Island, Ocracoke. I know you have some higher end amounts here versus are likely, but for the most of eastern North Carolina, you still have the potential for this heavier band. So the 8 to 12 is a nice average forecast, but where that band sets up, we have the potential for a foot to a foot and a half of snow. Again, 8 to 12 inches of snow is a good average forecast for eastern North Carolina, but the potential is still on the table for a foot to foot and a half of snow. You'll see these values, 13 in Greenville, 14 in Kenansville. We don't know where it's going to be yet. Is it Highway 17? Is it over Greenville? Is it toward New Bern? Somewhere in our area is going to have a heavier band of snow, and that's what we're concerned with. So that 8 to 12 is a nice average amount for our area. Potentially it's a little lower toward the Crystal Coast, a little bit better chance for being lower Hatteras Island and Ocracoke because of rain at the onset. But no matter what happens, the potential is there for that heavier band of snow. And whatever we get, if we're in that 8 to 12, like is the most likely scenario, we do expect some very dangerous conditions this weekend, that combination of snow and also wind and cold. And we highlighted it in the beginning. If you're just joining us on the Winter Storm Severity Index, potential extreme conditions right along the coast itself, that's where our best chance for blizzard conditions would be. Places like open exposed areas to the Pamlico Sound and the ocean itself. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the messaging that we've kind of come forth with over the last couple of days. We don't want anybody to be on the roads, dangerous to impossible travel, widespread closures, avoid travel. This is the last day to get things done. We shouldn't really be going anywhere this weekend unless you're working for the Weather Service or you're a first responder and you have to be there. If you don't have to be there, stay home, stay put. If you're at home, you're much safer than being stranded on the road. We've had deaths in our country due to exposure to cold. It's one of the biggest killers in winter storms. So please stay home and be safe. We try to save the historical wording. We've talked about this in some of our discussions, but we just want to put it in context. It's been a while since we've had a significant storm this widespread in eastern North Carolina. The last one, December of 1989, and then back in 1980, March, the last time that we received, the majority of our area, more than a foot of snow. So again, the forecast is 8 to 12. That's a good general forecast for the area, but the potential where that band sets up to a foot and a half of snow, that has the potential to be historic. And that combination of the snow, the cold and wind will lead to life-threatening conditions. Just trying to pinpoint that band is going to be oh so difficult. So I want you to focus on the impacts, not just those numbers themselves. Some of those impacts, again, cold weather, air temperatures. It's been cold the last couple of days, in the 20s inland tomorrow, teens when you wake up Sunday morning. The top graph are temperatures, and then remaining near freezing or below freezing into at least Tuesday. So very cold, especially inland. Closer to the coast, Morehead City, Hatteras, you can see some of those temperatures may initially be above freezing, but even those places get much colder as we progress through the weekend. And the bottom graph, how it feels like outside, single digits to near or slightly below zero, both Sunday and Monday morning. So the snow is part of the story. The cold weather is another one. And the last aspect, at least winter-wise, wind, cold, and snow, very, very windy conditions across a good chunk of eastern North Carolina. Gust 30 to 40 inland, blowing and drifting snow, again, wherever you're exposed, open fields, and especially near coastal bodies of water. That could lead to some scattered power outages, especially toward the coast. For the most part, we think it's going to be a dry snow, not the best for snowball making weather. A little bit farther inland, it's going to be dry, but along the coast itself, it may be a little wetter, so it may cling to some things. So we could have some power outages, most likely would be closer to the coast due to the aspect of that snow being a little wetter than dry. And then also you folks will have a much stronger winds. All right, we've talked all about snow, and we've talked about some of the impacts winter related. This is along the coast itself will have impacts similar to tropical weather in terms of a potential for flooding at the coast and very, very strong winds. We showed you those wind gusts over 60 miles per hour on the Outer Banks. That's strong tropical storm force winds. So don't want to forget you folks down at the coast. We hope to make some revisions and have some specifics later today, but this is still valid. Moderate to locally significant coastal flooding, likely both oceanside and soundside. It's a complicated situation. We've got a couple factors working for flooding. We're heading toward a slightly higher period of high tides as we get into the weekend. We have a northeast wind. For the most part, that's not onshore as much. It does become a little more onshore as you get up toward this bend in northern Outer Banks. Eventually, the wind shifts to the northwest. That will maybe help alleviate some of the concerns along ocean side, but you still have large breaking waves of 15 to 20 feet out in the near shore. Sound side areas, initially with that north and northeast wind, it might pile the water up in down east Carteret County, but when does that wind shift occur? How long does it last? Still probably most questionable down here. We do think the water will increase, but we're just not confident enough on some of the specifics just yet. On a northwest flow, that would favor soundside areas, especially Ocracoke Island and Hatteras Island. So generally speaking, 2 to 4 feet is what we're still sticking with. Still probably some issues on Highway 12 because of the vulnerability issues we have, especially oceanside. And call the office, dare hide. We can give you some more specifics over the phone and hope to have those kind of in writing as we get into later today. That's the hope with the coastal flooding. So as we wrap things up, today's the day. Had basketball practice yesterday evening, ran to the store. I saw a lot of people got the forecast. So it looks like folks are stocking up, but there's still plenty of stuff in some of our stores. So today's the day. Do your finishing touches. Make sure you have everything you need at home to be home this weekend into a good chunk of next week, and then just hunker down over the weekend. Over the weekend, though, I want us to think about our community. Again, we talked about this yesterday. Your elderly neighbor, your family that's local, make sure you're staying in touch with them. Make sure they're doing okay, especially if we see some of those scattered power outages. Want to make sure folks are staying warm or trying to be as warm as possible, doing the right thing, not having issues with exposure to cold, not going outside, and things like that. So as we get into the storm, let's make sure we're checking on our community. That is very important. We put the slide on here before. Best chance for blizzard conditions along the immediate coast. It's got to be 35 mile per hour winds, and it's a visibility less than or equal to a quarter mile for more than 3 hours. All right, so specific forecasts. I showed you a lot of maps. We're going to make some adjustments and tweaks, but don't focus, again, just on amounts because it's more than snow amounts. Wind and cold is a big story this weekend as well. Weather.gov/forecast points. If you click anywhere on the map where you live, you can zoom into your local city or town. You can find out not only how much snow will fall, but the wind speed and temperatures as well.